Story 1. He pretended to have a high-paying job at a large corporation, but I knew he actually worked at a hardware store. Story 2. That he was in love with his sister-in-law, I realized fairly quickly. Honestly, I just kind of pitied him for it because she is never going to leave her brother for him, and he will spend the rest of his life pining after her. Story 3. I do not know if it qualifies as a secret, but I know she just happened to move to the same area as me. I saw her in passing one day, and she looks almost exactly like she did when she broke up with me 8 years ago. I do not think she knows I live here. I look pretty different from when we were dating, thanks to some serious health problems over the last several years. I stopped using almost all social media shortly after she left me, so I do not have an online footprint to follow. I found out I have cancer around the same time I came across her, and I am currently using the goal of reaching out to her once I have beaten it as a driving force to help me keep from giving up the fight. I have a long way to go before that happens, and I know it is unrealistic. I will probably have to reassess whether that is the right thing to do once I am there. But for the first time in years, I can motivate myself to try to maintain my fitness despite how awful I constantly feel, and I no longer have to fight the urge to just give up and die every day. Story 4. He was texting his female best friend about how he wished she was the one he was dating. I found the messages by accident one night when he left his tablet open. I never said anything, just slowly detached and left a few months later. I wish someone had told me earlier to trust that gut feeling when something feels wrong. Story 5. The story he told me about how he found and fell in love with the ring he proposed with was not true. How did I know? He asked his mother to pick one, and she was worried I would not like it, so she told me. She and I went to the store to pick one out. She made me swear never to tell. Story 6. He turned into an alcoholic and had screaming matches with his new wife and our son. He would knock things around and punch holes in the wall. I talked my son through how to handle this if he did not want me involved. He went off on his dad during one of his drunken tirades. Now his dad is sober. Story 7. Found out by accident from messages she left on her iPad that were sent to her friend. She falsely accused a man of rape because he rejected her. I slowly ended the relationship to avoid making her angry enough to do that to me. I also took pictures of all the messages I found as backup in case she came after me. Story 8. I would not say he is my ex, but my late husband cheated on me and took it to his grave. His best friend finally told me a year after his passing. Not only did he leave me with 2 young children, but he hid that from me for 8, maybe 18 years. I know a lot more now that he is gone. It has made grieving much messier and the hatred much stronger. Story 9. My 60-year-old wife, age 57 of 34 years, did some topless modeling at 18 that ended up in a calendar. I own a copy of the calendar. She has no idea that I know about the modeling or that I have a copy of the calendar. Story 10. He is over $1 million in debt, and a large percentage of that is credit card debt. Do you have any idea how hard you have to work to get to that point? I do not care, other than my relief at avoiding that situation. I let him tell people that I was always the money problem and that I make bad financial decisions. If that makes him feel better about himself, okay. I will wipe my tears with all the money I have in my savings. Story 11. She trained her dog to perform oral sex on her. I came home during it, saw it, and left. She did not see me. This was a big part of why I ended the relationship, but she does not know that. Story 12. I found out he was cheating on me. I contacted the other girl involved, and she did not know about me. We both broke up with him on the same day. I believe to this day he thinks we are not smart enough to know about each other. Story 13. He was in love with his girl best friend, and she was in love with him. I found messages that insinuated it. I confronted him about it. He denied it, of course, and I believed him. But over the years, I found love letters and sentimental items he kept hidden from me. She even messaged him the night before our wedding. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew. We are divorced now, and I am much happier, but sometimes I look back, and it still hurts to know I was never the one he actually wanted. My boyfriend now wanted to be with me for 8 years before we started dating. It is remarkable how different it feels when you are the one they wanted all along, and there was never someone who got away. I wish I had known this is how it is supposed to be a long time ago. Maybe I would not have stayed for so long. Story 14. He pathetically attempted to cheat at his 20th high school reunion while we were still married and was unsuccessful. There was overlap between myself and his current partner when he and I were still sleeping together. He secretly hates himself. He cannot be alone because being alone leaves him with time to think. Story 15. He wasn't employed and would wake up every morning, get ready just to be on the streets. He did this for months, thinking I didn't know and that I would encourage it. Because why not? Appreciating the commitment, though. He also blatantly lied about his military career to everyone who would listen, even though I had a copy of his certificate of release or discharge from active duty. Story 16. He wanted to open our relationship. I painted into a corner and too young to know better, agreed. He then told me he already had someone in mind. It didn't take much effort to find out that he was telling her she knows, that they had already made out at a work event, and that he was already emotionally invested. He shared with her things I had told him in confidence about my low self-esteem and that I wasn't good enough in bed. He had been sexually assaulting me for months at that point, and I had long since given up. I told him to stay with his dad for a few days. He slept with her on day 2. I grew a backbone and told him we were over. He continued to sleep with her. Then she dropped him because he was getting too attached, and for her, it had always been casual friends with benefits. I know this because he signed into his chat account on my computer, and I could see all of it in real time. What he doesn't know is that while the feelings are gone, the trauma is still there. I see a therapist regularly even though it has been years. You know what you did, and so do I, despite your best efforts. Story 17. To this day, 15 years later, he connects with random men off Craigslist a few times a year, always as a bottom and without protection. I am a cisgender woman and knew he was bisexual, but I do not know if his new wife is aware. When we were together, we had an email address we both used for junk mail. Apparently, he still uses it for these connections. I do not use it anymore, but every once in a while I realize some old account is linked to it, so I have to log in. I try not to look at the headers for other emails, but when messages have subject lines like, looking for a butch daddy to abuse my asshole, it is hard not to notice. Story 18. Over a decade ago, almost 2, so pretty irrelevant now. I was dating a girl for a while. Her ex contacted me and sent me an amateur adult video with her in it. There was no mistake. The tattoos and everything matched. He was convinced I would leave her over it. He claimed that's why he left her, because she made the video while they were together. No idea if it's true. It was before our time. I never told her I knew or saw it. I even watched it a couple of times. We were young, not meant to be. We eventually split ways, and it was never brought up again. Story 19. He held a party at his house and did not invite me. I later caught him with another woman who was probably invited to the party, 3.5 years into the relationship. Story 20. I have a doozy. I got a temporary administrative job in a legal office where I read through cases, delegated them to the right lawyers, and helped with other tasks. My ex and I were both in the military, by the way. About 9 months after the breakup, a case came across my desk. He was being investigated for some misconduct. He had to provide reasons for his actions. The explanation was full of lies. Things you wouldn't expect someone to lie about, including false statements about me, whom he just referred to as his ex. Anyway, I thought, I need to be professional. I can't interfere with the process. They'll decide what is true and what isn't. Fast forward to our weekly work meeting. One of the lawyers got confused about my ex's case and 2 different people being referred to. I responded, "Oh, they're the same person. That member had a name change, so that's why there are different names on the forms." The lawyer turned to me and said, "Wow, thanks, but how do you know that? Is he a friend of yours?" I said, "Actually, he's my ex. We broke up last year." The lawyer's face dropped and he got angry because he had been very empathetic to the lies my ex had been spreading. Realizing those lies were untrue as soon as he saw me perfectly healthy was striking, especially since one of the lies was about how my ex had sacrificed everything for his disabled and extremely ill partner. Yes, it was very satisfying. I requested not to hear anything more about that case, but it was obvious my ex wasn't getting away with his charges. Story 21. He was not just flirting with the first nurse he strayed with. The actual full-blown affair with the other nurse lasted much longer than 2 months. He sent her pictures that he should not have, and they were shown around the hospital. A marriage of 22 years went down the drain. Story 22. While I don't have proof, I am now wise enough to realize that his statement, "I can't tell my ex that I live and share a bed with someone because we are dating, as she is autistic and can't handle that information," was untrue. I know that sounds unreasonable, but I was so young and desperate to believe him. Story 23. It has been over 20 years since we last spoke to each other, but I still think about her every day. I was a senior in college and she was a sophomore. It just had to end. I still miss her. She probably forgot my name a while ago. Story 24. I found out she used to have a relationship with her cousin. I saw the messages where he was trying to restart their relationship. Her reply was, "That was fun when we were 16 to 18, we are too grown for that." Story 25. He does not know that I know he tried to seduce my late best friend, but that friend was loyal to me and not to him. Story 26. The man she cheated on me with, which I did not know at first, contacted me, and we became friends after I ended things with her. We formed a connection by untangling all the lies she told and the manipulation she did. Story 27. Once I realized she was a narcissist, I ran for the hills and never looked back. The worst thing you can do in that situation is confront her and try to work through it. Narcissists will always be the ones who hurt you the most with mind games. Just walk away. Story 28. I know about his large-scale marijuana selling for a dealer, his mistresses, and his heroin use. He will never know because the last one ended his life after we had been married for 3 months. Story 29. I know his Reddit account, and he has been very nasty about me. He is lying when he says that he did 90% of the housework. I don't know if he realizes that housework involves more than sweeping the floors once a week. I did it all. It is just so frustrating. He is also constantly messaging girls on Reddit every evening, focusing on these young women. Good luck to him. Story 30. This was a long time ago, but she was not big on kissing, hardly ever. I thought it was strange for sure. I talked to a couple of her exes and they said the same thing. Later, I found out she had been an escort. She did not know I found out. It was not so much the escort part that surprised me, as strange as that may sound. It was that she based such a big part of a relationship on a movie like Pretty Woman. Story 31. He installed Tinder a week after the initial talk we had about possibly splitting up to be the best parents we can be to our children. Yes, we have a family group on Apple. Story 32. My ex's father's hiding spot. Her family lived in the country, and her father's job in the oil fields monitoring wells required him to stay overnight. Her mother drove into town almost every day. My ex's parents were the type who never divorced, though they could not stand each other. Her father would come home during the day and pretend to be working nights when he was not. He had a hiding spot where he could wait for his wife to drive by. Story 33. After we broke up and I was moving my stuff out, I found a small box tucked away in the back of their closet. It contained every single little thing I'd ever given them. Ticket stubs, a wrapper from a candy bar we shared on our first date, little doodles on napkins. They never knew I saw it. It was like finding the secret sentimental archive of our entire relationship. Story 34. I saw you on the news. I hope the sinkhole on your property swallows you up and you face the consequences of your actions. Story 35. I ended a long-distance relationship in a rather messy way. She threatened to harm herself and I told her to move on. After trying to smear my reputation, she sent a mutual acquaintance to apologize on her behalf. This person, upon learning about the breakup, said they had actually dated my ex in the past and experienced similar behavior. The difference was that this acquaintance called off the breakup, and predictably, things only got worse. She convinced them to send her a selfie, which she then used to commission explicit artwork of the couple without the acquaintance's knowledge or consent. She had asked me to send her a selfie almost immediately. I take some consolation in knowing that, because I have deformities she couldn't see in the picture, there is no way the commissioned artwork resembles me. Story 36. He hid $140,000 during our divorce, thinking he was smart. I knew the whole time he was not. I did not want his illegal earnings. I just wanted that person out of my house. Last I heard, he was caught for where he chose to hide the money. Story 37. When he and I broke up, the apartments we were living in were in the same complex where my mom and I had lived while I was in high school. The landlord and I were very close. He allowed me to break the lease without paying anything. The landlord obtained an eviction order, and I received videos and photos showing how he left the apartment. His credit score is ruined, and he will likely never be able to rent a place again. He is unaware that the landlord shared this information, and due to him cheating on me, I am satisfied with this outcome. Story 38. She shows no awareness of how she comes across and how disrespected she made me feel, and she takes no accountability. I know she thinks I was the source of every problem in our relationship. She is someone else's problem now, I am sure. Story 39. I was the one who always did the laundry when we lived together. While putting his clothes away, I found one of his shirts covered in dried semen. A t-shirt stiff from it just hanging in his closet. I never told him I found it, but I did wash it. Then, a week or so later, I found another of his t-shirts still hanging in the closet, also covered in semen. I assume he used them as rags. He also did not know that I would sniff and suck those shirts while he was at work. Story 40. He cheated on me when we were moving cross-country. I left first to get the house ready and start a new job. His cousin told on him. To this day, I have never told him that I know. I just watched him lie and act self-righteous. But inside, I laughed at him. I have moved on, but that really sucked. Story 41. I know he tried to sell the hard drive he insisted he deleted, containing pictures and videos he said I took, half of which were made when I was underage, between 17 and 19 during the relationship. He was my first love, and I loved him. He was accused of assault while we were together, and I defended him. I now believe he was guilty. He was a terrible person, and I hope no one ever treats his daughter the way he treated women. Story 42. I had an ultra-luxury car in a certain city where my then fiancée turned wife, now ex-wife, was. The car had cameras that alerted my phone when the ignition was turned on. She drove the car with her passenger, who was her ex, and made love in the trunk with the seats down. She had no idea I was watching from 5,000 miles away on a work trip. Story 43. My ex's mom confided in me that he was never the same after his best friend took his own life. My ex was the one who found him. We dated 4 years, and I waited for him to open up to me about it, but he never did. I never brought it up because I wanted it to be in his own time, and now I will never tell him or anyone in real life that I know his secret. It breaks my heart to this day that he has never worked through it. Story 44. He had an affair with the neighbor. She was studying to be a nurse at the time and entering her final year. We separated for about a year, then rekindled the relationship. I was admitted to our local hospital where she worked. I had relatives who also worked there, and one was on the ward where I was staying. She told me that the neighbor had accessed my medical records. I waited until the neighbor graduated, got her dream job, and was enjoying life, thinking there would be no repercussions for her actions. Then I lodged a formal complaint about her breaching the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. She now works in a call center. Story 45. Learned years later from her brother that her parents had constantly been filling her head with racist ideas, saying, "Do you really want to bring one of them into our family and have mixed-race children?" Our relationship was frequently rocky without explanation, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm glad I didn't marry her. Story 46. I knew he never quit smoking. He just quit smoking around me, but I could smell it on him every day. I lacked the energy to argue because I knew he would lie and manipulate me. Story 47. She was a difficult person with many control issues. I was never allowed to go to sports clubs or see my friends. I experienced so much trouble that eventually I stopped going out, except for work. I lost most of my friends and became depressed. When I finally ended the relationship and asked her to leave, she left her social media account logged in on my tablet. Her inbox was full of messages from mutual friends at work, and she was seeing them. I don't know if this was happening while we were together. She also told everyone that I abused her, which was never true. She had a workplace accident once and was on crutches when she went out, but she would leave the taxi carrying the crutches and be fine at home. She told people I caused her injury. In such cases, the man is often presumed guilty until proven innocent, so I left to get away from it. Story 48. I saw their old profile early on when we started dating, but we had met in real life. It had lines that they would repeat to me verbatim occasionally. Maybe they are just a live-by quotes kind of person. About a week before I left them, they bragged about deleting their dating applications. They did not mention the specific one I saw. I realized they were completely dishonest and always had been. Story 49. Her husband, the man she cheated on me with and left me for, did not trade in his last truck. He wrecked it in a solo driving under the influence accident, but because he is a local police sergeant, he was never arrested. I got a driving under the influence about 4 years before this, and she absolutely berated me and attempted to use it to have custody taken away from me. Thankfully, it did not work. Story 50. She doesn't know I know she was cheating on me one night, which resulted in her not knowing I was with her friend who told me that same night. I'm not proud of it, but I was not even an adult when that happened. I broke up with her shortly after that night. It took a while because I was holding on to some guilt for my actions. Anyway, she is doing well. Last I talked to her randomly on LinkedIn. As for me, I ended up marrying that friend. Story 51. I know he cheated on his current wife and that the bra she found in the back seat of his car was not a prank someone pulled on him at work. It was the brassiere of a woman he slept with in the car, and he told his wife it was a prank. This does not surprise me in the least. He is a serial cheater, always has been. I found out decades after we broke up that his father had a whole other family. I wonder where he got it from. His mother was difficult too. I hope they all have the lives they deserve. Story 52. I know he was smoking opiates. He denies it all day long, but several of our mutual friends told me they saw him do it at house parties when I was not around. My sister saw him nodding out in the back seat of a bus with his friend who is a heroin addict. He has a history of pathological lying and erratic behavior, and unfortunately for him, I have very sound pattern recognition. Story 53. Her cousin, who was my friend, used to tell me what she said about our relationship. She got ignored like a major disrespect, and to this day, she doesn't know why. Story 54. I knew he did more than he admitted with that girl. I forgave him anyway because I loved him too much and respected myself too little. I didn't leave or stray because I am polyamorous or because I needed to explore my sexuality, but because he ignored my pleas for so many years and made it obvious he did not care about my well-being and was incapable of introspection. I did not leave. I did not even want to. I was pushed away for so long I lost myself and had no idea how to come back, and he did not try to understand any of it. He just made up a narrative in his head that he could live with. There is much more to this than I am writing here, but he was truly awful to me. An abuser who tortured me for years and tried to leave me with nothing. I also know his toothbrush was used to scrub the toilet when I moved out my things. Not sure how that happened. Story 55. I know that you knew I love my dogs and cats more than I would ever love you, always and forever. Story 56. That his father sleeps with sex workers. His mother probably knew and ignored it. I saw a few messages on his father's phone once. I was horrified and had to act normal about it. And never told him, of course. Story 57. Aside from her many other flaws, she had a chronic habit of masturbation. She had a high sex drive, and even after long sessions, she would still need to masturbate. Sometimes I would wake up and find her doing it. When she got home from work, tired and wanting to take a nap, her showers were short, and she sometimes forgot to bathe because that was not her main purpose in the shower. We both used Dr. Bronner's super strong Castile soap, so I could tell. I never felt like I was not enough. We really could not keep our hands off each other and did it nearly every day, sometimes multiple times. I was a terrible roommate to my friends, but she was always spending her passive time masturbating regardless. Story 58. Which political party was lying about being vaccinated during COVID-19 and which politicians went out into the public despite having COVID-19 and knowing so? Story 59. I knew he was hitting on a girl from the skate park and was obsessed with her. She was not interested in him. While he was trying to get me back, I did not bring this up because there was no point in arguing about that girl when I never want to be with him again. Story 60. His whole personality is a lie. All the stories he told were reproductions of his brother's accomplishments. He never had cancer, his mother did. Story 61. My ex was the type of person who never liked foreplay and stopped performing oral sex on me when his friend made a comment about how he would never do that because it was dirty. Nevertheless, sex with this man was less than enjoyable, so I used to pretend to get him off me as quickly as possible. My partner thought he was a complete expert in the bedroom. Story 62. He was cheating on me. He does not understand why I stopped responding to him, and he tries to talk to me when he runs into me. He is terrible at cheating. Story 63. I found a tracking device on my car that she placed. I used to remove it and leave it at work as needed. Story 64. I'm late to the party, but a few months after ending the relationship due to his cheating, I found a website where you enter a Reddit username and it shows every single post and comment ever made on the account, even if deleted. I used it on his secret accounts. Of course, I found a lot of deeply hurtful things, but I also discovered that he likes clown pornography. It has become a running joke among some of my family and friends. Story 65. They had a self-mutilation fetish that they only acted upon when they thought no one could see or hear. Other than Reddit, of course. I will probably take that one to the grave. A sick and twisted individual, but I still respect them enough not to reveal such a strange and disturbing secret of theirs. Story 66. It's actually more like a secret that my ex's ex doesn't know I know. She doesn't know that when she sent a passive-aggressive photo of herself with an engagement ring after I found out he was cheating on me with her for a year, the ring wasn't real, and he had never proposed. She was actually very hurt by the situation but didn't want me to see that. Perks of befriending your ex. Sometimes they're willing to expose all their own secrets and their exes. Kate, if you're out there, I dislike you and you could do better. He still talks about you. Story 67. He pretended to be asleep when I reached out to him for help while I was scared, alone, and bleeding heavily after the abortion he wanted me to have. I could see him online playing video games. Story 68. Found a hidden video file on my phone of her harming my dog. I had my dog before I met her. 2 years in, I found the video from about a year earlier. I never told her. Research tells me this is not that uncommon. Story 69. I am very angry at him still. I just try not to let it affect me because he was doing the best he could. He was just not cut out for a relationship in any way, shape, or form. He really hurt me in many different ways that unintentionally made me hate myself, lose interest in life, struggle to leave him financially and logistically, and struggle long-term financially. However, there is no benefit to me in continuing to dwell on that. Story 70. I know he was messaging his coworker, who he obviously had a crush on, trying to make conversation, but she was not interested and gave one-word answers. I did not do anything about it because, honestly, I felt secondhand embarrassment for him, and there was nothing incriminating. I ended up leaving him later on for other reasons. Story 71. I knew that a week after our breakup he brought a new girl home, although he told me that he was going through a very difficult time in his life. Story 72. He told me he felt guilty about spending the night with me, as we did every night, because his sister had a miscarriage the day before. I later found out he spent that night, and perhaps the following nights, with someone else. I got her name and everything but never said a word. He also bought me and his sister a bottle of expensive perfume each the day after. He said he just had to do something nice. Story 73. I read his posts about having a threesome with his ex-girlfriend, who was his girlfriend at the time, and their mutual friend. He ended up marrying the other friend. I am not proud of being in between. Story 74. He was messaging someone he met from a dating site about meeting up to be intimate again. I am a woman, He never mentioned being bisexual and would always swear he was straight. Story 75. I found out she was going to divorce me 3 years before she actually did. I found a note on a notepad about lawyers. It was left out in the open. When she announced it, I had been downsizing for years and had done my research. When she pulled the trigger, I was emotionally and socially ready. I may have been too quick with the follow-up. Here is what we need to do to make this happen. Story 76. He deleted the really mean and deeply cutting messages he sent about me to his friends, which I imagine was an attempt to later say, "Hey, you can look at my phone anytime." Too bad I had a gut feeling and checked before he deleted them. I did not tell him I knew he deleted them, just that I saw the messages. The cherry on top was that he cut contact based on me breaking the trust. I am hurting, but it is such good riddance. Story 77. I accessed my ex-fiancé's photo album from around 2007 and found that he had been sharing naked photos with a transgender person and trying to arrange meetings. Additionally, I discovered his collection of photos of women sleeping after he had been with them, as if documenting his actions. He was physically abusive to me, so I left him in Florida, where he still lives. He moved from partner to partner, possibly including men, was arrested multiple times, and accumulated significant debt according to public court records. He contacted me a few years ago saying he wanted to try again and asked if I ever thought about his love. Absolutely not. Story 78. They committed financial fraud and therefore settled the divorce quickly to prevent disclosure in the courts. Story 79. They think I have been living with my friends and family in a state hours away, but I have actually been living with my fiancé the entire time. Story 80. He wrote a note about things he did not like in our relationship. His number one issue was wearing a condom. He was in his 40s. Grow up. Story 81. She was born male. I never talked about it, and I did not find out until well after we broke up. But I had a feeling that was the case. She was great, and I loved her as people love girls in their early 20s. She is doing well as far as I can tell. Story 82. I used to catch his dad checking me out when I walked upstairs, so I started wearing no pants to drive him crazy. Story 83. Before we were official and just seeing each other, I slept with 2 people separately in one day, and she was the second one. I even ended up marrying her, then divorcing after 7 years together. I did not think it would help to tell her that at any point in our relationship. Story 84. I tried to kill myself, and he was the last person I texted to say goodbye. I am not sure if he knows I am alive or not, as he never checked in. I think he texted my brother, but I am unsure if they actually talked. Story 85. He is still in love with his high school crush or whatever that is called. I saw him still following her on Instagram even though he told me how much he hated her. Yet, he is still following someone he hates on Instagram and makes an excuse like, "Oh, I didn't follow her. Instagram followed her automatically. I didn't even know." No, I don't believe that, and it is pathetic because I know she does not want him. After all these years, he is still following her like a fool. I am glad I left him. Story 86. I saw the post she made about regretting ending things with me. I still cared, but I was tired of chasing, so I did not reach out. Story 87. He texted a girl from a party where he first saw me to tell her she looked cute. A few days or weeks later, he texted me to say the same and make it seem like he only noticed me and had gained the courage to contact me. We were only 17 and it was 15 years ago. Story 88. I read some Snapchat messages that should have ended our relationship much earlier than it did. We got together officially on the 21st. That was the day we talked about being together and becoming a couple. On the 23rd, in the evening, she received a message from a guy saying he had 2 condoms with him and asked if that was enough, adding that he would be on his way soon. She replied that it should be enough, and that her kids were already in bed. I didn't see her that evening because I had already made plans with some friends, and she couldn't join because it was bedtime for her kids. I do not know if she actually had him over or if she was just messing around and canceled at the last moment, as there were no further messages after that. So, 2 days after we got together, my new girlfriend probably cheated on me because I couldn't be with her that evening. I found out about it 2 months later. I was absolutely stunned. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure if she really did it or if nothing happened. But that insecurity was a cloud hanging over my head throughout the entire relationship. I still miss her, though. Story 89. I know the guy I caught her cheating on me with was not the only one. It's just not worth bothering with. I have only spoken to her twice, and that was so she could get her things out of my house after I threw her out. It wouldn't make any difference. I filed the proof away in case she tried to play the victim with our mutual friends, but she never did. Story 90. He lied to me that his father had cancer when I broke up with him, and then lied that he had cancer, strangely the same as his father. I wrote to his mother, and she told me his partner is in perfect health. Dodged a bullet with that one. Story 91. I found out he was still messaging his ex while telling me he was not ready to date anyone seriously. Story 92. The reason he left me after 5 years was that he became involved with drugs and knew I would not approve. I found out a couple of years later, and it broke me. Story 93. I wholeheartedly believe he was a virgin based on information shared with me by someone he attended university with after we broke up. Story 94. He was in contact with his ex, and they were supposedly friends who just played video games together. However, I overheard them speaking negatively about me. I knew they had something going on. Lo and behold, once we broke up, he went back to her. Story 95. She cheated on me and had to have an abortion. We could have talked about it, but she decided to keep both from me. This led to the relationship ending because the trust was gone, and neither of us wanted to put in the effort anymore. Story 96. He took the flower I designed for him and drew it all over his new girlfriend's arm and the notes he writes her. I did not really care to tell her. It was just giving me secondhand embarrassment, to be honest. Story 97. I know she cheated on me. Her roommate told me, and I helped her report my ex to the professional board. My ex is a therapist. She and I had not spoken in about 6 months when I helped put the report together. Story 98. He only goes out with me because I am somewhat similar to the girl he had liked for 5 years, who, ironically, I had liked before as well. Story 99. I know that she was with another man while we were at work. She also had an abortion because she became pregnant. How do I know this? I received the doctor's bill after she had moved out. Story 100. She had a brief encounter with a girl from my friend group in a bathroom stall at a wedding we attended. I did not find out about this until after we had broken up. Knowing them both well, I still think they were just sharing some drugs, but a couple of bridesmaids insist to this day that it seemed more physical. I would have been fine with either, I just wish they had invited me. Story 101. She has gone as high in her government job as she will ever go. The upper management of her state government department know her, are aware of her attitudes and issues both in and out of work. I have a contact there who told me she will not advance any further and they would give her a good reference elsewhere to move her out. Story 102. My ex got really sick and was hospitalized for about 6 weeks with a terrible unknown illness. They operated on him and conducted many tests to find the cause of his severe pain. He was on the strongest pain medication and still almost begged to die. Eventually, he got better and I nursed him back to health. A year after we broke up, I found out he bought C4 explosive on the black market because he read in online forums that it is good for weight gain, gym enthusiast, and he actually ate it. Apparently, there is a supplement brand called C4, but he thought they meant the real explosive. It is very typical of him. He was an idiot. Story 103. She lied about deleting Tinder. I matched with her on a temporary account just to confirm it. I played along for a day. She still does not know it was me. Story 104. The man she replaced me with, I knew him. He was a local troublemaker who would say yes to every drug offered to him. He had no morals or dignity. He cheated on her in less than a month. That did not make me feel much better about everything, but at least I knew I did not mess anything up. Story 105. His dad and stepmother still tell me all his gossip and drama, and I love knowing that I avoided that situation. Story 106. She is now he. Dated back in the 1990s. I searched their previous name and found a Facebook account. Definitely the same face I remember. It's all good. I am happy for him. Story 107. Her new husband was and is still cheating on her. Maybe they have an arrangement or something, so it is none of my business. Plus, she cheated on me with him, so it is payback time. Enjoy your visit to the sexually transmitted disease clinic. Story 108. He had another lover, a white powdery substance that one inhales through the nose. I only found out well after we broke up, but it explained a lot. Story 109. I managed to deal with my loans without her knowing. It was purely my effort and no harm is being done. I just do not want arguments to occur. Story 110. He was fired from one of his recent jobs for watching pornography on his work computer. He had an elaborate fake story about being an innocent victim in the firing, but a more recent ex told me the truth. Story 111. He never ended up getting his degree because he became addicted to cocaine, and his parents forced him to drop out to go to rehabilitation. Story 112. I chose to continue living with my ex after she became disabled while we were together. If I die, she receives between $250,000 and $1 million from my life insurance, depending on the circumstances. She also has a small policy but talks as if it is equivalent and suggests that if she passes, I might finally be able to own a house. I do not have the heart to tell her that her policy is for $15,000 and probably will not cover her funeral expenses. Story 113. I know he was having an affair with the girl who introduced us. It was kind of brilliant on her part, actually. She brought in someone who didn't have a lot of life experience and used her friendship as a cover. Her husband told me it was happening, but my inexperience made me think he was just being jealous. I would not go back to that time in my life for anything. Story 114. He was proud of paying for his college all by himself, neglecting to mention that his parents actually paid a significant portion of it. Story 115. Not my ex, but my wife's ex-husband's current wife did a surrogacy last year. Only one of the 3 embryos implanted, which is not uncommon. I found out from my stepdaughter, who was just a little kid and doesn't know much, that she went to an amusement park the day after the embryo transfer. You were supposed to be on bed rest to give ample opportunity for implantation, but she was riding roller coasters, bumper cars, and go-karts. She's lucky even one implanted. Story 116. Her friends would tell me when she cheated on me. We lived together, so I had to figure out how to leave, but as the relationship started to fade, she was seeing other men behind my back. Several of her friends wanted me, so the couple of times she cheated, they told me. She thought she was clever, but it was honestly just sad. I was heartbroken at first, but it gave me the push I needed to leave. When I ended things, she seemed confused about why, probably because she had planned on finding someone else first. That whole group of friends, including her, was very unpleasant. Story 117. Despite expressing how much he disliked white girls who had been with black men, his search history on adult websites was filled with terms like tiny white girl takes big black man and white girl getting gangbanged by big black men. He also does not know that after we separated, other women came forward to me stating that they were victims of his abuse, physically, mentally, and sexually. I look forward to the day when one of us has the courage to come forward so that the rest of us will no longer be afraid of not being believed. Story 118. Nothing really that exotic. I found out from a female friend that she had sex with a guy after we broke up. The guy told my friend, and my friend told me, which is not exactly a big deal. However, I also know that the same guy has had a couple of inappropriate incidents with both the first friend and a different female friend. So, my ex hooked up with a guy who has come close to putting himself into sexual assault situations with women. Story 119. My ex-best friend slept with her stepbrother because he was flirting with me, and she couldn't handle anyone but herself getting male attention. 10 years later, she still craves attention from men so much that she cheated on her boyfriend, who was working nights at a difficult job to support her. Story 120. That she was being with her ex every night when she said she had to go feed her pig between 11 and 12. She had a pig, but it conveniently lined up with his lunch break. I saw the messages between them one night while she was in the shower. It didn't really bother me though. For me, and apparently for her too, we weren't serious. So I started my own nighttime routine as well. Story 121. She would fake seizures. It was blatantly obvious. I went with her to a neurology appointment where they told her she is fine. I always wonder if she still fakes seizures or if she grew out of that behavior. Story 122. She was cheating on me with her study partner. We were in a long-distance relationship, and her accusations of me cheating along with her impossible pregnancy scares made a lot more sense after her sister told me following the breakup. Story 123. She really did cheat and broke things off just to hook up with another man. The fact that she refused to speak for herself and had her friend do it speaks volumes. She spent the entire final week we talked tearing me down and destroying my self-esteem. She was trying to make me snap and look bad so she could feel better about it. Story 124. They cheated. The person they were unfaithful with admitted it to me. I suspected it anyway. They still deny it, but I believe it. There is no proof, but I believe it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.